A terrifying new study has come from researchers in Australia telling us that young people across the planet are developing horns on the base of their skull. And these researchers claim that cell phone use is to blame. Children are growing horns, and it's all because of the cell phones. Or at least that's actually what all the headlines about this ridiculous story wanted us to believe. Here's the headline for the Washington Post, for example. Horns are growing on young people's skulls. Phone use is to blame, research suggests. Here's the thing, though. The study put out by these researchers in Australia at the University of the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia, that's not exactly what they said. And they don't even necessarily agree that we should call these things horns. What these researchers have pointed out is that they're seeing more and more instances via X-ray or any kind of other imaging that young people in this country are starting to develop, some of them, not just this country, across the world, starting to develop these little, I guess they'd be called bone spurs that measure only millimeters in length at the base of their skull. And they attribute that to this. That's it. That's what it is. Basically, poor posture is causing children, young adults, to develop these little callus-like bone spurs. And they actually say that that's the best comparison, like a callus. You overwork your fingers or whatever it is, you're going to develop calluses. This motion here, holding your head down, is going to overwork the muscles and tendons in the back of your neck, and you're going to develop this little bone-like calcium callus, almost. But the media wants us to think that those damn kids on their damn cell phones all the time have now started growing horns because they can't put their phones down for 5 minutes. When in fact, this study just says, hey, yeah, computers, technology, phones even, the constant looking down, people have bad posture. And now it's starting to actually affect our physiology. That's what the study is about. And yes, they do slightly blame phones because after all, today we look down probably a little bit more than we did in the past. But they also point out this is not even a new phenomenon. These little horn-like structures, bone spurs, were identified all the way back in the 1800s. Except back then, it typically affected the elderly. Because they would sit at home more frequently than the rest of the people who had to go out and actually work back then. And what would they do? They'd read. They'd knit. They'd do other activities where their posture would get worse and they would be looking down more. They didn't have cell phones back in the 1800s. But they still developed these things all because of poor posture that came along with getting older. And yes, they are developing sooner in people now, and that's what the researchers are telling us. But these scare tactics from the media, like cell phones are causing kids to grow horns, that is insane. And that is everything that is wrong with the media today. They took this study, absolutely distorted and contorted it into something almost unrecognizable just to scare parents and other people into thinking that kids are spending too much time on their cell phones. When in reality, this applies to anyone who sits at a desk at work, anyone that sits and reads newspapers for too long or reads books for too long or otherwise is sitting with poor posture. The researchers actually recommend a few things to counteract this. Stand up every now and then. Stretch. Maybe go see a chiropractor. Do some yoga. This isn't a life-threatening thing. Hell, it's not even a threatening thing. But the media hyped this so much that I guarantee you there are people on this planet right now who think children are growing quite literal horns out of their brains because they're using their phones. Thanks for watching, everybody. And don't forget, if you like what you see here, like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. And now you can also become a member of Ring of Fire and get exclusive early access to certain Ring of Fire videos all throughout the week. Just click on the little join button right below the video.